Hello and welcome to the Save Our Sperrins podcast, Voices from the Frontline. My name is Morella Fife, your host and member of the Save Our Sperrins team, and this podcast comes from the Sperrin Mountains in Northern Ireland. This is an ancient land shaped by mountains and bogs and by the communities born from them, and whose same people are now living with growing pressure from mining and large-scale upland development. And that pressure isn't unique to here. Across the world, the so-called energy transition is driving ever more extraction. There's growing demand for critical minerals and rare earth metals, and that demand is landing on local communities, asking them to live with the long-term impacts of toxic mining. Season 1 looked at why the Sperrin Mountains matter through the voices of the people who live here and know this place well. Season 2 keeps those local voices at the centre while also stepping back a bit. In Season 2, we look at extractivism more broadly, how it's been justified, how it is fundamental to a system of accelerated growth, plundering ever more from a finite planet, designed only to feed predatory capitalism, creating untold and unprecedented misery simply to support the bottom line of a balance sheet in some distant glass-walled boardroom far from the ground we're standing on. Thanks for listening, and let's begin. Today's episode is with Gerard Moyne and Sean Gallagher, both residents of Donegal, whose communities lie downstream of the proposed Dalradian gold mine in the Sperrins. Gerard and Sean, as concerned citizens, have been closely following the planning process, particularly the transboundary issues and the question of how a project in one jurisdiction can affect communities, water systems and ecosystems in another. In this conversation, we discuss fair participation in the public inquiry, the Aarhus Convention and the precautionary principle, focusing in particular on the moment Gerard and Sean brought their own submission to the inquiry to draw attention to what they believed were gaps in the cross-border consultation process. This is a discussion about borders, water, process and the rights of downstream communities. Welcome, Sean and Gerard, and it's a great pleasure to have you on here today.
Ditto.
And thanks very much.
Pleasure,
So, Sean, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and sort of how you've ended up being involved in this? But before we get into our main topic, a little bit where you're coming from.
A short overview. I live in Letterkenny. I've been living here since the late 70s. Originally from Donegal area, so I have a very big interest in the Sperrin Mountains.
Okay.
Because I grew up on them. But I here and then for 30 years I worked organic culture for supplying vegetables and herbs to local restaurants mainly, and then I taught organic gardening too on certain courses throughout Donegal. And therefore, when I got into my 50s, I thought my organic garden was of an interest from the environment, trying to work with the environment and showing people you can work, you don't poison the land, etc., etc. So then I decided then in the 50s I wanted to go back and study law, so I can use that as a resource to help to work for the environment. And so I did a law degree in Letterkenny, and then I've done my master's in environmental law in UCC in Cork. And from that then, I got in touch with Tony Lowe's. Well, actually, Tony Lowe's got in touch with me through the lecture in UCC, and it kind of linked me in then with environmental campaign. So I thought it was good to have a group here in Donegal. So I approached people like Gerard and a couple of other people to get a wee group together to use our knowledge and legal knowledge to help to defend the environment. So we started a group called Defending Environmental Wealth, and here we are. And we've been successful in a few campaigns, but I suppose the sperm mining issue is probably the biggest thing we've got involved in. So pass it over to Gerard. That's my overview anyway.
Thank you, Sean. That's very interesting. And half of that I wasn't aware of, and I must come back to you. I have a parallel track in my life, you know.
Okay.
However, I would have been an organic teacher as well, and grew organically. I worked in the organic centre in Leitrim for a number of years, you know. Yeah. So it's
I
funny.
always visited there, especially years ago. I visited a lot, you know.
Yeah, and I did a postgrad in environmental decision making with the Open University many years ago, you know. So so we're in the same.
Well, we'll chat about that again.
Aye.
Each other.
And Gerard, tell us a little about yourself.
I'm the reluctant hero. Right. Myself, I only got into, I suppose in academia circles, I only lifted that in my 50s and got a degree in community development, and then subsequently, recently, I did a diploma in science through the University of Galway. With regards to organics, I'm actually an agent for an organic supplier in Ireland, Fruit Hill Farm in Cork.
So yes, I do. I know them, of course. I've often bought off them.
So I'm their Donegal agent.
Pretty good.
So myself and Sean were out yesterday delivering compost and seeds throughout Donegal. Anyway, how did I get into the environmental thing? I was dragged in it through the courts because in 1997 I worked in the coal industry for 30 years and oil. And we had a family business. And in 1997, I stupidly... I suppose at that time, wrote to my local authority complaining bitterly of the dumping of toxic waste in Donegal. To cut a long story short, I wrote the letter. About 6 weeks later, I was served with a planning infringement injunction. And then I spent 21 times in the High Court with my local authority. And it was basically the deliverance of a message: hold your tongue, we've bigger fish to fry. And that's where the brown envelope thesis came in, because I realized, whilst I might have been a local business person, I was a very small fish in a very large pool of complicity to commit criminal acts. So I became very familiar with the law very quickly, because in my local authorities trials, I took on to educate myself, because I figured this was going to cost me a fortune. So as a lay litigant, I represented myself in the High Court 21 times. So that was interesting. And the tipping the cap to authority I didn't read that chapter, but so anyway, to cut a long story short, in 2005, because of this case, which is relating to the 13-acre dump just up the road, in its now 29th year of non-action, I was forced into voluntary liquidation by just basically the bullying of our local authority and other matters. So I've been fighting for the environment since, even though I was always an environmentalist, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of my role walking the rivers, fishing, and and my great interest in protecting the environment by what I did was doing anyway without the help of others or even knowledge. So that's where I come from. And then, of course, we met Sean, and we've been doing great work since. We don't even get a Christmas card from the local authority anymore.
Yeah, but Gerard, you've got to mention you're a famous beekeeper.
Oh, yes. Well, yes.
Go on, tell me.
Well, I am a beekeeper, and that's where the science diploma came in, because through University of Galway, I did a diploma in science through the topic being beekeeping, which is very interesting because I brought it up at the meeting last night. I said, and I actually have a herd number. Imagine.
For your bees?
For my bees, yes. Imagine, because now they don't individually have to have tags on their ears. But I'll make you laugh again in a few moments. So I've been at the bees since 2016. So I'm very much an infant in this. But I'm not a great believer in this ideology of I've got 30 years experience. A colleague of mine once said, "Is it 30 years or 1 year 30 times?" So anyway. So yes, I have to have a herd number, and this is very important, I suppose, because in Donegal, I think anyone that has gone through the roads here in Donegal, especially in Inishowen, have seen oysters and mussels being moved all over the place. Without license or concern, moving problems from Lough Foyle to Lough Swilly. Lough Foyle, none of the oysters coming out of Lough Foyle are actually allowed to be used for human consumption because there's no licensing.
Yeah.
Yet they're coming out onto the roads of Inishowen, and they've been moved to Lough Swilly and Treveга Bay in Carndana and other places all over Ireland without either concern or licensing or where myself as a beekeeper, I sell honey in butcher shops locally. The local authorities go into the environmental health, go into the butcher shop and look for my herd number on the jars.
Oh, God.
Now, here, and I have to be inspected every year. Once a year, the environmental health inspector comes to my home to inspect. Am I labeling correctly? Am I doing all the... And I think it's wonderful that this is done, that I'm doing the correct thing. But yet here we have 100,000 trestles of oysters in Lough Foyle being moved all over Ireland without a will nor a way.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It's incredible. So the very people whom, like the Sea Protection Authority based in Greencastle, are, I call it, what if you could call it, the conspiracy of anonymity. They cannot be seen to be doing their job. And that's where myself and Sean come in. We have, I liken it to becoming the barking dog. So every corner they go round, we're standing there chained to the ground. But anyway, I'll finish on this note. October last year, my wife's, she's not my doctor, but she is a medical doctor. And I rang her one morning and I says, "Hello, love, how you doing?" I said, "I'm coming in to see you. I'm only 10 minutes away because I just got stung with a bee." And she went, "Oh, shit." So anyway, I was right in the midst of anaphylaxis, and it's not funny. And I've been stung hundreds of times. So since last year, I've been going for immunotherapy. For 3 months, I had to go down every Sunday to Galway. And now I'm going down every 6 weeks. And for anyone out there that has bees and knows someone that has become allergic, it's really, really important to know that there is a cure out there, and I'm living it. I didn't give up my bees. I still have them, and all good.
Oh, that's really interesting because my other half had bees here, and that happened to him, and he gave them up, but he gave them up 20 years ago. You know, it was it was getting too dangerous. So that's interesting. And I have someone else here connected through one of my kids who's doing a beekeeping course at the minute, and is looking forward to putting hives on the place here this summer. So I must connect them up to you at some point.
Yes, do. I'm a mind.
How many beehives have you got?
Me?
Me?
Yeah.
About 20.
No, you're more than that.
Well,
this is a podcast. You've got 20.
No, Sean, those are the legal ones. Anyway.
Does each hive have a herd number, or does
no, just me.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. And so, honey on the back, on the labels on the honey, should have a herd number on the label if it's real honey.
And if it's any concern, I would please, even though it's expensive, buy from your local beekeeper.
Oh yeah,
and do not touch that sugar syrup. That's
past us honey. Yeah, I know. I know that for years, but I just see other honey around for sale around the place, and I'm suspicious of it. Let's put it like that.
Totally.
Okay, let's get to the point of this conversation. Last year, January 2025, our public inquiry for the gold mine planning application was suspended due to lack of a transboundary consultation. Now, I want to sort of drag you back to that time, and so I kind of know now why you got involved, but was there any other reason you particularly got involved in relation to the transboundary issue at that time? Had you been aware of it before you were approached by one of us, or just tell the story, the circumstances around it? Sean, if you want to go ahead. Or
yeah, well, I've been involved with CAM.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for years now, a good number of years since the foundation of it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was very aware of the what's happening in Tyrone. Visited the place a couple of times, and then with my knowledge and law, there's been no proper transboundary consultation here, you know.
Exactly.
Ireland and Britain are both signatories to the Espoo, which is there's 45 countries in Europe have signed up to that. And that's basically to prevent and reduce and control significant adverse transboundary environmental from proposed activities, and that has to be done. That is a legal standard. So I noticed that this wasn't happening. So obviously, I pointed that out in our submission, but obviously Donegal County Council was trying to evade the issue. And
can I just stop you there? From can you remember when Donegal County Council actually put out the public consultation? Was it in December, or was it earlier? Was it December 2020?
It was before Christmas, and obviously
that's what I thought.
Christmas, it's a holiday period.
Yeah.
And
it was very close to Christmas. Like it was within a day or two of Christmas, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And
they published it on the 5th of December, I believe, which giving the 30 days, it ran up and included the Christmas holiday break. But that was a contrived event.
Yes, I know that, but I just wanted for people who would be listening to from the outside and know nothing about it. Yeah. So was it about 2 weeks or 3 weeks was given in total, something like that for the public consultation?
Yes.
Yeah. I was trying to look it up and I just couldn't see when it actually went out, you know. So taking it from there then, Sean, so the public inquiry open. Can you hear me, Sean?
Oh yes, I hear you. Yeah.
The public inquiry opens, and day one. And Sean and Gerard appear.
Yeah,
they attend.
Yeah, we sent in our submission and pointing out
Yes.
the transboundary aspects of it, which are obvious from land, soil, every part of that affects drones going to impact Donegal because we're hydrological linked. We're counties beside each other, so obviously it's going to affect Donegal. So I'd want to the interesting thing, myself and Gerard went over to Omagh to the opening, and I went up and just to put another copy of because I had suspicions that Donegal County Council wasn't going to get this in time. I knew they weren't going to get it in time.
Exactly.
They left it so late.
Yeah.
So I went up to the table and slapped down on the table, big brown envelope with their submissions, and that I think annoyed them. So that's how it started. Maybe Gerard, you can mention what happened then.
Yeah. What you just mentioned the late submission. The Donegal County Council. This is how inept they are. They sent it into the King's Council. That's the DFI at 5 on the Friday night before the public inquiry. 5:10.
Yeah.
So they didn't have time to even look at it. It had supposed to have been in with them in the October of the previous year, and they just didn't bother their ass because they felt this is insignificant. So the Friday morning, the previous night, I printed 5 copies of our submission, and I, by the way, I don't carry round brown envelopes.
Really?
But I had to say we made an exception in this case. So so we took 5 copies of our submission up, and Sean had written on the outside of it our DEW submission to the public inquiry, if my recollection is correct. So Sean put it up on the table, and then I seen a member of security go immediately up and lift it off the table and then wander around the hall with it, not knowing what to do with this. And so then the fun began. I thought, right, what's going to happen here? So security looked at it, everybody looked at it, but they sat it back up on the table, then they took it off the table. And so then the chair of the commissioners came in and they greeted everybody. And she then said, "Who put this envelope on my table?" And
members well.
So everybody was looking around. So we looked around as well. More or less saying, oh, it wasn't us. So that came. Then she said it again, and I thought. Then at that point, I stood up and I said, it was myself and Sean, and that began the nightmare for DFI, because I truly believe they honestly believed nobody was going to show, and they weren't, and because of the lack of interest by the Irish state, not just
not council, Irish
not
state,
just the Irish state, because of their lack of interest and their lack of knowledge of their need to comply with legislation. As a friend of mine once said, he says, the great thing about the Republic of Ireland, he says, when the European Union bring in new directives, new legislation, Ireland is quite unique in the fact that it generally is very quick on the ball to bring that into Irish law. But the other side of it is they are also unique in they enforce none of it. So anyway, that's where the chairperson asked myself and Sean to come down, and others, people of interest, to come down to the blank tables to sit with the elite. or beside the elite of all the legal teams. And that's why, getting back to my original case, is that when you've got people who are legal, King's Counsel or solicitors' firms, they don't know what to do with you.
That's right.
They have no idea, because they have no idea, and because they show deference to each other because they know that as a friend of mine, I've only got two friends, but anyway, the other friend says to me, at one time it was a case held in the court in Letterkenny, and a man went to the solicitor's firm and he said, "I can't represent you, but here's a note for a guy down the street. He'll represent you." And on the way down, he opened the note, and it read, "2 fat geese, one for you and one for me."
Oh.
And that's a true story. That was a customer of mine, an old man in Letterkenny, and that's what that son of a gun wrote on that bit of paper. He should have been struck off, and he turned around and he went back up the road and he sorted the thing out with his neighbour, which he should have done in the first place. But that's what they treat each other. We are the geese.
Yeah.
They treat us with a certain level of contempt.
Absolutely.
And like you've seen the counsel for Dalradian talking about his trousers down around his ass. He made that comment to me, and I thought, how rude can you get? But anyway, so we only learned then. We went home. We went there on the Tuesday while they were arguing, and we went there. Oh no, that's right. We decided not to go back on the Wednesday. And I was sitting in the pub at 9 o'clock on the Tuesday night, and RTE rang me and said, "Are you going to the tribunal tomorrow, the inquiry?" And I said, "Well, I have no intentions of. God, you better go." I says, "Why?" He says, "They've admitted what you have said, that they broke the law."
Yeah.
And I went, wow. And to add, well, Sean heard this more than I. The RTE guy, I can't remember his name. When we were walking up the steps into the inquiry, he made the comment, "There's the 2 ball wreckers from Donegal." I thought, whoa. but if I had anything to say is, this has been a learning experience. And this is what is so important for lay people. You have a voice, and always believe that. And you can be heard, but there are others out there who will help you be heard. Yeah,
that's so true. And it's using the law to break the law.
Exactly.
Sean, how did you feel when you heard the news?
Yeah, well, I was quite confident that we were on the right. I don't think I was the only person, or myself and Gerard. There was a report. I've talked to a few people at the beginning, and they said this can't work. They've totally ignored the transboundary issue. But I didn't expect it to all happen so quick.
Yeah.
Basically within 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so that was, as Gerard alluded to, that was, we felt it was we kind of felt we done a good job. We want for a better word, that we managed to put a spoke in their procedure of trying to harm your environment, because that's the way I look at it,
Mm-hmm.
So, and after necessary measures to establish proper procedure with the public and prepare the possibility of the potential impacts on the environment when not carried out. And I felt I'd done a good day's work, and both Gerard and I felt we'd done a good day's work, That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, it was absolutely, from the point of Save Our Sperrins, it was a fantastic day's work. It for all of us, the years we've spent on this, and the years that you guys have spent accumulating knowledge how to work around procedure and in relation to the environment, and boom, there it goes, it works, as you were saying, Gerard.
Yeah.
So my question is then, so the transboundary issue still exists, and we're about
Exactly.
we're about to start another public inquiry. And recently, I had on the podcast an expert from Dr. Stephen Emmerman from the
Yes. Yeah.
Utah in the USA, and his point was that in relation to, say, a mine tailings dam and the collapse of a mine tailings dam, one, it's uninsurable. And there are none of them insured anywhere around the world, so it's a known risk, and it's not a matter of if, but when the mine tailings dam will collapse. And two, as part of their application, Dalradian ought to have had in a downstream plan for alerting communities such as yourselves in Donegal, but also the communities here, which are 5 miles, 10 miles, 15, 20 miles, doesn't exist. It's not in the plan application at all,
Yes.
And so I just wonder how do you think it's going to go forward from here in relation to the transboundary aspect of it?
Well, I just want to comment. Only in the last few weeks we had rainstorms, downpours, and unprotected downpours in southeast Ireland.
Yeah.
They've done massive damage, and this is now happening every winter. So we have to follow the precautionary principle within environmental law. And when something cannot be predicted or there's uncertainty, you cannot go ahead with that. Now, the Sperrins mining application, it is in raised ground, and we do not know when we're going to get that amount of rain would fall and what damage it can do to tailings, for example, and what damage it can do to our ways, So it's uncertain. It cannot be even mitigated against, because it's completely uncertain. So the project on that basis cannot go on. That's the way I look at it,
Uh-huh.
So that has to be hammered home come any inquiry in April. It's April, I think it's to begin.
That's right, yeah.
And that uncertainty around the precautionary principle has to be hammered home. And that does not affect just the waterways and environment, the biodiversity in Tyrone or in County Derry. It also affects the Foyle, Donegal. So
that's right.
Transboundary issue. And if it doesn't meet the standard of impact, mitigate, you can't mitigate against unpredictability. And we're living in an age of unpredictability as far as the environment.
The other thing is, which I think is important, and it relates to the transboundary issue. It would appear that we, the people on the other side of this boundary, have been isolated in the fact that the people of Donegal will not know what's going on with this tribunal until it's over, because we have no access to it unless we wish to travel to Oma. So all those that have concerns have no, there's going to be, from what I can gather, that there will be no cameras, there will be no recording, it'll be all second-hand knowledge. So how does the people of Donegal and further afield, because this will relate to, especially with air, the Foyle goes out and goes out into the Atlantic, and it goes right across the Donegal North Donegal coast and the north coast of Derry. But how do the people of Donegal how are they going to be informed That is of concern to me personally. If there's no access to any information other than we go, we sit, we listen, and we say, well, but we can't record it. This is very strange to me. Very strange.
Yeah, it seems to put a shot across the bows of the Aarhus Convention, really, doesn't it?
Totally.
People are entitled to have access to information.
They're right to know.
Yeah,
right to know.
I believe we have. We're working on that at the minute. We're making creating a case for that, which in the short term, it takes them a long time to come back to you when you're putting together an argument for the convention. So it may not be quick enough for what we're dealing with right now. In your opinion, could the public inquiry be stopped again at this point because of that lack of?
Yes.
And
I think there's precedent on this now. I do not know.
Right. Okay.
I don't think I can't on the top of my head, but I won't look into it. But I think there's been cases where it was compulsory to have it open to the public. Like, with technology now, it's very easy to do so.
Yeah.
From Zoom, etc., etc. And okay, people can look on and see what's happening. Maybe, and obviously not partake, but they can then delegate or whatever.
It's kind of an oxymoron, really, when you're using the term public inquiry where you're holding it in camera.
Yeah. It is an oxymoron. You're absolutely correct.
So I think that we should be quite confident and be stalwart to the public inquiry team, is that how can there's a bloody subtle difference between public consultation and public participation. And this, they are saying to us, oh, well, you can send in, and I will say at this point, I am shamed, beyond shame, the submission by our local authority. It's dreadful.
Yeah.
Yet again, thrown again at the 11th hour, appealing to the Luchs agency for a copy of their submission so they could take little bits and pieces out to make our submission look really nice and good, when there was no concern, no interest in this whatsoever.
Probably left to the office intern or something.
Well, whatever, I don't know. Like a senior planner, and I'm not denigrating the person that signed it off, but it doesn't appear to have been a team effort. It appeared to be, could you please send me some information so that I can copy and paste? And that's what it was. And it's a dreadful, well, it's not overly dreadful, but it's an unthought out submission without, and the consultation process, as it was again, lastminute.com, throw it in. Yeah.
Highly unprofessional as well. And it makes me actually wonder, was it planned to be that way?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah. Coming back to your point about the access to information for people in Donegal and further afield, and this actually impacts the whole of Ireland. This planning application, because there's 28% of the Republic and 25% of Northern Ireland are out with mining exploratory licenses. So everyone is interested. Everyone is watching.
Yes.
Not so long ago, 2-3 years back, maybe about 4 years ago, there was a huge, as I call them, wind factories now, and rather than wind farms, because that's what they are, wind factories, planned for a place called Brockderg here in the Sperrins. And that, the PAC at that point made the point of allowing access online and being able to record at that consultation and at that inquiry. So one wonders that the precedent had already been set. It's not as if it's a new precedent.
Absolutely.
And now, this time, they seem to be driving a coach and horses through it and deliberately, as you say, not allowing participation of interested parties in it. And it really is a blow to democracy. If they can stop it for something like this, well, what else are they going to do? Like we saw it happen where many times over the past 3 or 4 years when Emmett was he was elected for on one issue, the mining issue, to sit on our district council, and his mic was often muted in discussions, particularly through when we were in lockdown, and he couldn't participate in the conversation. Do you know, that is absolutely scandalous.
Of course it is. And that's why we need to be stalwart in our sort of approach with respect to the inquiry and the team, to say the people of Donegal have a right to be there, and that doesn't necessarily mean in the room, because what are they going to do? Let's put a scenario here: 34,000 people from Donegal show up at the meeting.
Exactly.
Let's get a crowd here and say, because they're saying, well, the only way you can participate is to come into the room. So what if we gathered up about 50 buses of people and
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
We have a right.
Yes, we have a right to attend.
You can't have your cake and eat it.
Go ahead, Sean.
No, it's just, it's in the name. It's a public inquiry, so the public will have to have a right to hear the inquiry. That's
exactly.
So now my next question is a little slightly broader. So as people who are protecting and defending our environment, and as I pointed out last week at another meeting, our governments are not protecting our environment. Our political parties are not protecting our environment. Our district councils are not protecting our environments, at least not where it counts. And then there's one line left, and that's us. We're the last in line to put value on the air that we breathe, the water we drink, and the earth that supports us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always reacting. We react against this planning application, against that proposed, against this. Mm-hmm. So we're always catching up. We can never drive the horses. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And in your opinion, how do we change that? How do we be in the room to change policy?
Oh God.
Big question, I know, but it's what we have to be thinking of, because otherwise this is where we'll always stay, always reacting.
I suppose my personal opinion is, teach a man to fish. It'll do him no harm. So teach a man, and that include all genders. Teach people that they have a right to knowledge and the right to the landscape, and that these rights are all enshrined in legislation. Now, sometimes we take laws as being a negative, as in regards to enforcement, and we're being forced. But if we can educate in some small way the next generation and the next generation before them, if we continue to educate and be responsible for saying, like we did last night at the meeting, you have rights and your voice is important to everyone. And it's often we get angry with people, and someone I know the other day says, I fundamentally disagree with this person and what they're saying, totally disagree, but I keep reflecting that they're a human being, and it's my duty to tell them that their voice can be heard by everyone, but they have to understand my voice as well and the reasoning why. So we can't just be angry at each other. We have to sit down and have a discussion as to why we must respect each other.
Yeah.
I have a phone ringing here somewhere.
It's all right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know what you're asking. It's a difficult one for the simple reason that I think we're going through a phase of change, and you alluded to it earlier, that people are becoming more aware of their environment, and that's what it comes down to. Those people who are attacking or threatening the environment are a minority. They're usually people who want to profit, and their main concern is making money, making profit, and the environment comes second. But we as defenders now, we call ourselves defending environmental wealth, and that's what it comes down to. It comes down to our population and its health. It comes down to biodiversity. It comes down to our land, our soil, our water, our air, and our climate. Whereas material assets to us is our cultural heritage. Our material asset is our landscape. It is not how much money we have in the bank. It's the air would we breathe. And the interaction between all them things I've mentioned are so important because they interact. Our health interacts with our biodiversity, etc., etc. So that awareness, that's an educational thing, and it's awareness that it's so important that we defend our environment, because that is the real wealth. And once that gets across into people's conscience, that's when things begin to move. Now, we saw it. We saw it last night at our meeting. You see it in Tyrone. No, 15,000 many applications.
I think it's up on 50,000 objections. Yeah,
50,000. Like,
yeah,
you know, and through all that, people become more aware. They understand what's happening.
Exactly.
So that's how change comes about. So I think in this last 10 years, there has been change and there's been awareness, and we have to keep the people on the people who wants to tackle our environment or destroy it. We have to keep them on the back foot. So, yeah, I think it's educate. That's basically what we have to do. Be aware and be diligent in their awareness, and use whatever resources we have. They're not great, but they can be built upon. The Aarhus Convention can be built upon, Espoo, etc. And lobby our politicians, because at the end of the day, they have the power. And obviously here in the Republic of Ireland, they're trying to undermine the Aarhus Convention. They're trying to undermine judicial review. And we have to be diligent and don't let it happen.
And as we proved categorically, you don't have to be a King's Counsel or a politician to bring down a public inquiry.
Yeah. What a fantastic example. Okay. And probably my final question, ask you, each of you individual, what gives you hope?
My hope is exactly what I'm after relating to, is awareness, making people aware, creating that awareness within the community, and stamp out reactionary. I mean, there's a rise of the right in Irish politics, European politics, and politics throughout the world. Like, you know, we see the election of people like Trump, etc., in America, who even deny climate change. They can dampen your hope, but I think it's a blip. I think that will resolve and we'll move into an area. Well, I hope we move into a period of a heightened awareness. Fingers crossed, you know. Yeah. But at the present time, you can't blame people being we're up against it, you know, because look around us, you know, the reactionary governments are in power. especially in Europe and America. And of course, war is a big problem in the world at the moment too, and puts the environment back on the back stove, off the stove altogether. So. But I am still hopeful, and being an activist is the most important thing. Because if you're an activist, you always hold on to hope. But if you stop acting and stop fighting for your community, you'll lose hope and you'll become depressed. That's my message out to the community.
Lovely. Well done, Sean. Thank you. Gerard?
For me, I suppose what gives me great hope is the despair that we share amongst those that threaten our environment, because they do despair, because their question is, and this is always the question in the room, what's in it for them? And then they can't deal with the concept of the word nothing. There's nothing materially there, but if only they knew there's everything. And there's just so much. I couldn't even begin to go through the alphabet of all the things that are there for us, and the goodness and the wonder and the protection. And you sit, I remember sitting at Dunree Fort with an American, and it was very inspiring because she sat beside me, and I said, after we just sat in silence for a few minutes, and I turned to her and I says, "What do you hear?" And she started crying because she says, "Nothing." And that concept, but there wasn't nothing. She hadn't heard all the other things that there is to hear. And I'd never experienced that before, because we become so burdened with noise. Noise is surrounds us. And this is what gives me hope, is that we're taking the noise and we're doing something about it.
And on that note, I think we'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much.
Thanks both for a great conversation.
Good, thank you.
Sure, we'll see you soon.
And thank you for being a great host.
I hope this doesn't put somebody off their beer on Saturday night.
No. You can turn it up in the pub and they can all listen to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million, folks.
Thank you so much.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
As we close today's conversation, I want to begin by thanking Gerard and Sean. What they've described is not easy work. It takes time, patience and persistence to engage with planning documents, legal frameworks and consulting processes. That is good citizenship, and we're fortunate that people are willing to give their time so freely in defence of something that ultimately belongs to all of us, our shared future. And that brings me back to what a public inquiry is meant to be. The word public suggests participation. It suggests fairness. It suggests that when decisions affect people's lives, those people have a meaningful place in the process. But a public inquiry does not always guarantee public participation. And here's why the Aarhus Convention matters. It recognises that access to information and participation in environmental decision-making are rights. This is environmental democracy in progress. The Aarhus Convention ensures fairness for participants. And yet, throughout this planning process, it has so often been local citizens who have identified gaps, raised breaches, and scrutinised whether laws and regulations were properly followed. It's not how the system is supposed to work. The public should not be the enforcement arm of the state. They should not be the last line of defence when it comes to the most basic elements of life, the air we breathe and the water we drink. And then there's the question of the proposed tailing dam, the toxic waste that remains long after the mining stops. A structure that would require monitoring and maintenance indefinitely, forever. This is a permanent environmental responsibility for the communities left behind after the proposed mine has shut up shop and vanished. We're told modern systems are safe, but no human-built structure has ever proven itself intact forever. So it is reasonable to ask, what does forever mean in practice? Who carries that responsibility? And what happens if something goes wrong? And in a worst-case scenario, toxic mine waste released upstream into Rhone will move downstream through connected river systems towards Lough Foyle within hours. So where's the clearly articulated emergency plan for downstream communities? How would people be alerted? How would they respond? Surely, with such scientific uncertainty, the precautionary principle applies. When an activity raises threats of harm to human health or the environment, precautionary measures should be taken, even if some cause and effect relationships are not fully established scientifically. We must apply the precautionary principle. And if citizens are repeatedly the ones asking these fundamental questions, then perhaps the deeper issue is not just the project itself, but the resilience and fairness of the decision-making process around it. That is something worth reflecting on. Thank you for listening. Thanks for spending time with this conversation. What you've heard here comes out of people's day-to-day reality and from a place that's living with a lot of unanswered questions. And if you'd like to understand more of the wider picture behind it, you might want to listen to episode 23, a conversation with Dr. Stephen Emmerman, The Science of Failure, Truth, Risk and Responsibility. In that episode, Stephen speaks in detail about mine tailings dams and slag heaps, and about the long-term risks they carry for people and places. If you feel that stories and information like this matter and deserve to be heard more widely, you can help by following the podcast, leaving a 5-star review and sharing it with others. It makes a real difference. We'll be back with another conversation soon. For the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the earth that supports us, we hold the line.